Welcome back to the Business Roundtable podcast. I'm your host, a founder of Steward Your Business, where we bring great guests to you week after week to help you create a sustainable business, one that you're proud to be a part of. And whether you're the business owner, up and coming leader, or perhaps up and coming entrepreneur, this is a podcast episode you're going to want to lean into. Today's conversation is definitely something more deeper than just business strategy, but really I'm excited about getting into your purpose. How do you lead with resilience through adversity? What happens when this entrepreneurial journey becomes something connected to something bigger than ourselves? And my guest today here is Elaine Lankford, founder of She Steps Forward Coaching and She Steps Forward International. You're going to learn more about both of these organizations. And what I really like about Elaine is that she works with women entrepreneurs in the United States, in Africa, really helping them launch their business, whether it be a nonprofit, and these are mission-driven organizations. And as a leadership junkie myself, if you will, leadership, sustainability, personal growth, these are all infused in there. And so, Elaine, I'm really excited for you to share your journey with us. You've gone through a lot, and you're still here, and you're fighting the good fight, and I love that. And I just want to say thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those that, don't know your journey yet, and by the way, we're going to make sure you guys can all connect with Elaine, and we'll have that in our show notes and whatnot. But Elaine, you had a great career in nursing, and then this entrepreneurial journey came up for you. And so tell me a little bit about, you had a very, there's always a need for nurses, but you felt like there was another calling for you. Can you walk us through a little bit of that journey for you?
Sure. So I had a 16-year nursing career before all of this. And I started off in oncology nursing or cancer nursing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I transitioned into pain management. And throughout my nursing journey, I climbed the leadership ladder. That came natural, and I love that and love the things that God was doing in my career. And toward the end of my career, I was actually a nurse practitioner out in private practice with a pain management physician, and enjoying that. But in 2008, I had a real Job, like a Job in the Bible moment. And there came a time when there was crisis. And so around August of 2008, pain management had become very political in our state of Virginia, as well as many other states in the country. It was a high emotional time in that category of medicine. And so in 2008, in August, our practice was closed down, and the physician that I was working under became a target of a board investigation. And so that started a year's journey into defending myself, because in that process, as a nurse, I was interviewed by the nursing board, and because there was nothing negative or anything I would give them on him, because there was nothing to give, they literally opened up a case against me. They took one case out of hundreds of patients that we had seen, and when I say they made it up as they went along, they made it up as they went along.
Wow.
So as I'm in this crazy process of all of a sudden being in a defensive position, accused of things that were absolutely untrue and out of character for me to begin with. My father passed away around December of that year. And so now my family is going into grief. And then around May of the next year, as we're getting toward the tail end of what would have been the year-long process, my husband at 47 was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So all of a sudden, my whole world is in ashes, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So on the short end of that, I would say that what happened was, because of the things that were transpiring in life, and because of the length of the defense and the expense, that I ended up making the decision to walk away from that piece of my career. It was not worth my sanity or my family's financial health to continue this process. And so after leaving nursing, it took a couple of years of just kind of some deep introspective work to kind of figure out where I was going next. And out of all of that tragedy and things, I started rebuilding my career on my nursing career, my RN. But in the short run, what happened was I was at a church. I was very fortunate to be surrounded by a great family of believers, and we
Mm-hmm.
on trips to Nicaragua. And it was on one of those trips that I heard God whisper in that small, still voice that he whispers in. And he said, I need you to go home and raise up your daughters, my daughters. And that is how I got into entrepreneurship. I came home with
Mm-hmm.
a clarion call that I was supposed to raise up my sisters in Christ, but I didn't know what that meant. And we can
Mm-hmm.
get into more of that
Yeah,
as we
definitely.
go.
Absolutely.
But that's how it kind of got started. And that's why I'm coaching today.
Wow. I think I hear a lot, Elaine, of the shift of identity of and what you were in your career, and then that went away, and if your
Did I
husband's
freeze or did
cancer.
you freeze?
Oh, did I? There we go. There we go.
It
We're
froze. Oh, it's
technology.
okay.
It froze for a minute. We're still live. All good. But you know, and what I heard you say too is that it took time. It wasn't like instantaneous. Like some people think, oh, I'll just get rich quick, or I'll do this thing. It was like, no, it had to take some time to percolate and sit there, and it kind of, and I found that to be my own journey as well, Elaine. And so maybe, what I love hearing that is where you're coming and helping with women business owners. We'll get into this a little more, but I could see where sharing your own journey of uncertainty and what's going to happen next, and where do you want me to go with this? Um, it spurred you on, and obviously your faith is obviously very critical there too. That's what I heard loud and clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So, coming back home and coming and sitting with what he had told me
Mm-hmm.
really awakened my eyes to all of the things that were around me that I wasn't seeing before. Right. So my
Mm-hmm.
husband and I had been a part of that church for quite some time. We've been, if you would, lay leaders in the church. He played in the band and we both led small group. And then I started going on
Mm-hmm.
these mission trips. And so we knew a lot of people in the church, and I knew a lot of these women, and I knew things that they had been through. And what really struck me is after that impartation from God, if you will, I came home and our church had grown from like 400 to 1,000 people. We'd built this new building, and I'm sitting out one Sunday looking at everybody, and I realized that these women were coming in, checking a box and going home, probably not unfulfilled, doing the routine and coming back. And I thought, why are they not using their stories? Why are they not helping someone else in the situations that they've been through? And that's when it really hit me that he was
Mm-hmm.
calling me to be this catalyst, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
clearly heard him say, not long after that, you will be in the back and you're to push them forward. And I thought,
Mm.
okay, all right, not sure what that all looks like. But
Right.
I just, somewhere in there, I found out about coaching, and I found out about this thing where you motivate people and you help them and you strategize with them. And I thought,
Mhm.
wow, I've been doing that informally for years. I just didn't know what
Yes.
it was called, right?
Right.
And so I went down after that, and I got my John Maxwell certification in 2017, because who doesn't love John?
All right.
And I had a nice gentleman in the area, great Christian guy, who took me under his wing and coached me for a little bit. And we tried to figure this whole thing out.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what really came out of those deep conversations, and that's really when you're trying to figure out your purpose, you need someone to help you get
Yeah.
outside of your head. I'm sure you would agree with
Mhm.
that. Kind of lay
Yes.
it all out. Was that I thought I was going to be helping women inside of the church into leadership, because I was all about leadership at that point, but he
Yep.
clearly moved it out to the marketplace. And
Mhm.
what an exciting time that was. And so getting a chance to see women's dreams come alive in the business world was just not something that was on my radar. And so clearly, as I've continued on, I've learned business, parachurch ministry, and nonprofit is where he's called me to. And raising up
Mhm.
women in these areas has been so exciting.
That's awesome, Elaine. I mean, and I love that, God brought you somebody along your journey in that case with the Maxwell leadership. And I agree with you. As Steward Your Business, when I started this in 2022, it was like I had other people. I found a group called Faith Driven Entrepreneur, and I had another gentleman who's been on my podcast, Jim Ketting, came along and helped me. And so you find these different people along and help you refine it and get clear on what is it that truly God is pointing you in that direction. And I would just say, what is that? I think entrepreneurship, we generally get that. But when we say something, I would say purpose driven, mission driven entrepreneurship. How is that different, Elaine, in your experience? And you look at the world, and you're going into the world, like you said, I'm going from the church and I'm going to the marketplace. But how is that different than just other just ways of entrepreneurship?
I think a lot of the women that I attract are like me. There just is something that we know that God and our faith is calling us into. And God's
Hmm.
economy doesn't work like the business worlds, right? Not the secular
Hmm.
worlds. And so it's a higher purpose. And at the end of the day, you just want to help people transform their life. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, we need to be practical and we need to set them up as businesses and run them that way. But
Hmm.
we are really called to that higher thing. Like, what
Hmm.
really excites me and gets me up in the morning, and I'm sure you feel some of this too, is just watching that transformation of that person,
Yeah.
watching them going from the set point into all that they're called to be has been the biggest thrill of my life. And when women get that little twinkle in their eye, I know we're in the right direction. So these women that I am called to specifically for me, are women who just know that they have a call and there's some kind of gap that they're trying to fill. And not a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of the time it comes out of their backstory, right?
Hmm.
And so me, I came out of a nursing career, stumbled my way into entrepreneurship, had no idea what I was doing, right? I'm not some corporate executive who has all this business training and don't have a war chest to invest in it. And so now I'm seeing all these women who have all these big dreams that will change their communities, but don't know how to put that all together into a strategy or a plan that will move them forward and make them sustainable and profitable.
Hmm. What do you think? If you haven't got there, they're like you said, the women they're feeling this itch. There's something, but there's some kind of disconnection from maybe the work they're doing. It doesn't feel meaningful. It doesn't feel like it's aligned or in purpose. You know why do you feel like there is that disconnect? What are you seeing, Aileen? Because you're working with people and they're like, okay, I got to move. What is that for them?
Yeah, there is a passion that comes through when they do what they're truly called to do. Now we can all go to
Mm.
work and do excellent, right? We can do things with integrity and rise to the occasion, but
Right.
it doesn't always leave you passionate. And
Hmm.
so what they're trying to find is that thing that they feel really passionate about that's
Hmm.
leading them into their real purpose.
Hmm.
And I think that's the disconnect when you come on and when you go and it's just a checklist and you're like, oh, I got to go do it again. That's totally different than, oh my gosh, I got to get up and do this thing, right? And this
Hmm.
thing
Hmm.
is going to cause this ripple effect. And now I feel so strong because I've helped do this.
Right.
And it just gives them more sense of satisfaction at
Mm.
the end of the day. And at the end of the day, we all wanna feel that way. We all wanna feel satisfied with the work that we're doing. And so that's
Right.
what I think I see is the difference in them. It's not that they couldn't do the things that they were skilled at doing, but it
Hmm.
just doesn't drive a passion and a satisfaction that our internal humanity wants.
Hmm. Hmm. What when you're working with women, and they're in this journey, what do you see as like fears or limiting beliefs that come up for them that kind of hinder them from moving forward? So and I'll just use there's different analogies there. Let's just use Jonah, since we'll use a biblical story, right? Hey, go speak to these people. No, I don't know if I should be going to speak to these. Go speak to these people. No, I mean, there's so many different stories just in the Bible, but other Bible or not, where people, men or women, have these limiting beliefs or fears. How will
Mm.
this be received? Who am I to go do this, Elaine? Who am I to, I don't know. Speak to a little bit about that. What have you seen in that journey?
Now, I think one of the big differences between women and men, and some of this has been researched and studied out, is a level
Mhm.
of confidence.
Mhm.
Women really need to feel confident about what they're stepping into to follow through. Well, men will kind of try some things out and let it fall, right? So there is a confidence level that we need in order to step forward into what we're called to. But this thing that we're building in this realm is what I categorize as a God-sized dream. It is absolutely above and beyond what we know that we can pull
Mhm.
off by ourselves. And so for people of faith, that comes into a trust with God where you just know that He's going to guide you in it and He's going to provide. Well, he does, but he doesn't just roll out the red carpet. There's a lot to learn in this process of God providing and giving, right?
Right.
So women already feel overwhelmed because this thing feels so strong, and yet it feels so much bigger than what they can imagine they can do. And that plays
Mm.
into their confidence. And
Mhm.
then if they don't feel skilled at something, or like it's a path that they're, I, a lot of women I meet are trailblazing, if I may. Like I feel like I'm a trailblazer, and it's scary because nobody's done it before. And part of that is recognizing that we're all built and created differently by God on purpose. We all have this uniqueness to us in how we're put together, our skill sets, our giftings. And sometimes we don't know how to handle that because we feel like, oh, we've been stereotyped, or we've been taught to think like I need to do it like them, or I need to do it
Yes.
like
Right.
him, or I need to do it this way in this comparison game, right? Women really get
Mhm.
caught up in the comparison game. We can be honest about it. And
Sure.
so when we
Yeah.
compare ourselves, we don't let our own strengths and talents come to the forefront. Again,
Mm.
plays into our confidence, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that's just such a key piece that I've seen. But once you can turn that, once you can help them make that transformation, that they're unique, that their giftings were there for a reason, their stories are what God's trying to use, and help them see that, you start to see the confidence rise. Then they start making the moves that they need to move. But until then, they're sitting on what they need to do, but they're not ready to step forward into it.
So important, and I find that you're right, Elaine. And I think we have so many different roles put upon us. And I think I'm thinking as a husband and a father, but as a if you're a woman, you're a wife, you maybe have children. There's just different things that are put upon you and in the world and expectations. So how, like to your point, is like I'll use the body as an example of like, am I the hand? Am I the foot? I'm the ear. Like, what am I trying to be? What am I unique? Right? You're saying, Elaine. And I think
Mhm.
I can see where you have to deconstruct that perhaps a bit. Like you said earlier, like, okay, well, I had all these things, but they're certainly part of me, but they're not who I'm maybe where I'm going. And it was part of me. And like, what do I want to hold on to now? And like you said, trust in that so that I can know that I'm enough, right? Right. I'm enough. God's given me enough to be that person. And that's part of what I even use the Five Voices tool, which I've shared with you, is one tool in the toolbox, like understanding ourselves so that they can work with somebody like you, Elaine, and really leverage that if they're really clear on that. Um, and to me, that's exciting because I think once you get that synergy and they're like passionate about it, like Elaine, and you're getting them, it's like, oh man, great. Now, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. As you become
Mhm.
that, as that woman gets situated, she has to be really hold that space so that people can come to her and glad, want to support that mission and that vision and what she feels very passionate about. But if she's not clear about that or confident, like you said, it's going to be very hard to attract other people, attract, that she needs to help grow the business, right?
Yeah, and you're hitting on a key piece there, because clarity is where it's at, right? If we're not clear, first of
Mhm.
all, on who we are as a leader, and I know
Right?
you and I share that passion about leadership, like
Yep.
who are we as a leader? The Five Voices is such a great tool to use to figure out your leadership voice, right? And then there's
Mhm.
so many others. If you're not clear on who you are, as John says, you can't lead others unless you can lead yourself. And knowing
Right.
ourselves is part of leading.
Yep.
Um, that's and then also kind of understanding who they're here to serve. And here's the second piece I find with women is they come into this thing, they get all excited, but all of a sudden they think, and you've probably seen this with your own coaching clients,
Mhm.
they're supposed to serve everybody. No,
Mhm.
no, we're not all here to serve everybody. We're here
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
a certain piece of this world that we're supposed to impact. And so
Right.
and that's part of the overwhelm. Oh my goodness, I need to go out and do this thing, and I need to do it for everybody. But if we can get clear on who we are, who he's
Mhm.
called us to serve, how we're supposed to serve them, then all of a sudden we take a deep breath and we start to relax. And then it doesn't seem quite as overwhelming. But clarity is so key, that we have to keep driving down to figure that out. And again, a
Mhm.
lot of it comes out of what we've been through, or how we're gifted, or all of those things. Um, that piece alone is what will turn it around for most people. And that's when I see them breathe. When they get the
Mhm.
clarity of that, those two things, it kind of comes together for them. And then all of a
Yes.
sudden, woo, they're ready to make this roadmap, which is what I do with people, make roadmaps for them to help them get their
Uh-huh.
strategy straight. Then they're ready. Then they're ready.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as you're building teams, that's the whole, like, what is the team for? Who's supposed to
Right.
be on the team? How are they going to speak to each other? Like it all, clarity is at the center of everything that we build,
Yes.
right?
Definitely. Yeah, clarity. You're leaning in this meaningful direction that we're going. You have this purpose, like you said, and we can sustain this because if we understand this, this is where we want to go. If it's a mountaintop, it's going to take a while to get there. It's going to be hard, but if that's really where we need to go, right? And what I loved about your journey when we were talking before we started recording this episode is that you felt like, okay, there's these underserved, overlooked entrepreneurs out there, particularly in Africa. And so you felt like this calling. And I want you to share a little bit about this journey because this is also part of your, well, how you're giving back and trying to, how you're help. But you said, okay, I can't help everybody, but I can help these women and I can help these overlooked entrepreneurs, help them and grow. And talk a little bit about what you've been doing in that journey too, Elaine.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's about, I know there are some awesome, like you are an established coach, you work with established business owners and teams, but there's this whole segment of us that are just plain newbies. Let's just say it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, and this gap that we've created in the market where a lot of the established people are looking for the established entrepreneur has left the newer entrepreneur kind of without an ability to grab some of this coaching that they need.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
because I came that way, I feel like this is the gap that God is asking me to fill. Yeah, I
Mhm.
understand it on their level. I understand why they can't make the jump to the other,
Right.
they're just not there yet. You got to know,
Yeah.
you don't
Mhm.
know what you don't know till you know it. So in that, so this 0 to 3 year range is where I like to stay, where I like to serve. It's a sweet spot because we both know that most
Mhm.
businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Oh,
Well,
yeah. Yep.
why do they not have coaches? Do they not know what they could know if they did?
Mhm.
And so for women, that's the section that he's given me. And then God did this amazing thing as I stepped into what I was doing. I launched this conference called the She Steps Forward Conference in 2019. And he brought this beautiful woman from Africa, which I was
Mm.
not expecting on my first conference, but God is a funny God sometimes. And as Teresa came in, I found out she was about my age. I'm like in my 50s. She has, 5 kids of her own doing amazing things and co-pastoring with her husband back in Nairobi. And she just came in and she just absorbed everything that we were doing that weekend and just really
Mm.
leaned in and listened. And she came up to me after the conference. And as we spent a couple of days together while she was here in the area, and she just said, our women in Africa need this.
Mm.
One, they need to be able to take care of themselves and their family. The poverty line is so wide there. And
Mhm.
this is what they need. They need a destiny helper. That's what they like to say in Africa, to come
Mhm.
over and guide them. And
Mhm.
that leans so well because part of, I want to back up just a second and say part of what She Steps Forward is foundationally built on is Luke 145. And that's Elizabeth speaking over Mary, the mother of Jesus, when she says, and blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what the Lord had spoken to her. And
Mhm.
when I got into this and through all the things that I had gone through, that is the story that God gave me as the footprint for She Steps Forward. Here's Mary, and she's getting ready to do this big thing that no one else in the world will ever get a chance to do, right? And she's
Yeah.
young and she's not unlearned because she would have learned in the Jewish tradition what this meant, but
Right.
who in her world was
Yeah.
helping her, right? She's up in
Mhm.
Galilee. She's got this big assignment, like
Yep.
unmarried at this
What's going
point
on?
and now
Yes.
pregnant, right? So the angel gives her Elizabeth and she goes down, and Elizabeth's someone who was barren and had been ridiculed. And now she's doing this big thing of birthing the forerunner. Who
Mhm.
else could have understood Mary's journey but
Mm.
Elizabeth?
Mm-hmm.
And what I
Mm-hmm.
love about them is that one, Mary is so tenacious, and that when the
Mm-hmm.
angel tells her this, most of us in Western culture don't understand that she walked 40 miles to get to Elizabeth. Elizabeth wasn't around the corner. She walked 40 miles down into Judea to get her, which tells me something about Mary. And then
Yeah.
Elizabeth is there to speak over her and to pour into her. The Bible tells us they spent 3 months together. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful picture for women, especially. Are we leaning in? Are we letting someone pour into our life? Are
Mm-hmm.
we
Mm-hmm.
are we getting what we need before we step forward into these things that we're trying to do? Is there something there?
Right.
Um, and so anyway, that is the core of She Steps Forward in bringing them in. You need that person to pour into you, to speak life over to you, to
Right.
give you advice and wisdom and guidance. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we do as coaches.
Yes, absolutely. Hold that space. I mean, you're absolutely right, Elaine. Hold the space for somebody, and that they are worthy. I think this was something, and I'd love your thought on this. One thing I remember early on in my journey as a coach is like, well, how much do I charge? What does that look like? Am I worthy? And I was like, well, to your point earlier, committed and worthy. If we don't feel that way, certainly it's going to be very hard test for our clients, and for them to understand that they're you're a mechanism, you're a vector, if you will, to invest in themselves ultimately, right? I
Mhm,
think that
mhm.
hopefully that you're listening to this, and that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast, Elaine. And for those of you who are listening in, I want you to go check out She Steps Forward. We'll put it in the show notes, and Elaine and I are connected on LinkedIn. But you are leading from how you live, and so that way people can listen in and lean in and say, "Oh well, I never thought about it this way, and maybe I could talk with Elaine and help me, just like Elizabeth did with Mary." And so we all need that. I think the sooner that we go and lean on, I like to say there's always somebody to the right of us and there's somebody to the left of us. Somebody that's ahead of us in the journey, there's someone
Mm,
behind us in the journey, right? So we should
mhm.
be both being mentored by somebody, but we should also look at who can we mentor as well. I think
Yes.
it's both. It's not either or in your journey. And I think to your point, Elaine, we I'm so glad you're doing this, and I think we need more of this in the world. And men, you can step up too. But what, Elaine, I think is you understand that the challenges that our women are facing, the mindsets, the environment they find themselves in. And so to me, when I learned about She Steps Forward International, just an extension of that, I feel like, okay, you have a larger vision, like, of not just doing here in the US, but like you said, looking at Africa, looking at how can we empower women across the globe. To me, is so powerful. And it's interesting how God brought different people into your life, and you're like, I didn't even think I would even start a business, let alone doing something internationally, right?
Exactly. And this is such a God move. So two things in that is that I want women to just kind of women especially, but men as well, but women especially, the investment
Mm-hmm.
that Mary made was time and effort, right?
Yep.
And yes, in the coaching where we ask you to invest financially, but it's an investment in yourself, and that's the turn we have to make. It's
Yeah.
not you paying me, you paying David. It's an investment in yourself, and you will appreciate that so much more. And what I found in the African culture is it's so dignifying for them.
Mm.
And they have been so dignified, not only that someone else in the world took notice of them, but even in our last year, we've started ticketing our conference. They pay for their group coaching cohort experience, not at the prices we would do here in America, but they do pay
Mm-hmm.
in, they invest.
Yeah.
And I love their proverb about giving them, teaching them to fish and not giving them the fish. And
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
understand that, but we also have to understand that here in our American culture. So that investment is important. You're investing every day in something. Why
Yeah.
not be yourself? And don't let
Right.
the blockade be money, ladies. That is just a vehicle to get to your real investment, which is in yourself.
Mm.
And so I just want people to kind of lean into that. And then as far as like the vision of what God can do with you, you have no idea God only gives us a little bit at a time, right? He never like,
Yes,
if he'd have
yes.
told me that from the beginning, I'd have been like, what?
Right.
But he gives us enough for our day, enough to keep going. And he will do the same thing in your entrepreneurial journey. He will give you enough for the day to keep building what it is he wants you to build.
Absolutely. You made me think about, there's a book called Your God is Too Small. I think by JB Phillips, if I recall correctly. And to the point, your point, Elaine, I think we often, think too small. And I think coming in as somebody like yourself of taking the journey and, okay, oh, I didn't even know about this. I don't know about this. And so, you know, it does take a step. You need to, you need to get out there and recognize, and there's people to help you along the journey. But I think fear, worry, doubt, that's not of God. I think we come from a faith believing of the love of God. We believe that we want to know that people come from an abundance mindset. Whether you're
Mm,
a Christian or
mm,
not, I think it's
mm.
factual. If you're grateful and appreciate and you understand and you look around and you say, "Man, I've got blessings here. How can I bless other people?" You're going to go far. And I think even when we have challenges and you faced your fair share of challenges and we continue to face them, I think that's the other thing too, Elaine, what I love what you're doing with women, because in those first few years, they're going to face a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles, right? And you're like, but it's not unique to them specifically. It's just part of the business journey, right?
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
obstacles have to be seen as opportunities.
Hmm.
And those opportunities make us stronger. And so you
Right.
will make better and better decisions as you go, but none of us get it right in the beginning. If we're all being honest, we all make mistakes.
Absolutely.
What I love about the teaching of John Maxwell, and I know you've heard this from him and
Hmm.
others, is that you're failing forward. And when
Yes.
you contextualize it that way, that failure is just part of the journey and you're failing forward,
Hmm.
you understand, right? Thank
Yes.
goodness that was it Thomas Edison did 1,000 tries before he invented the light bulb. Thank goodness
Right.
we'd all be sitting in the dark right now. So
There's so many stories of that, to your point, Elaine. And so you may not feel like you're being quote unquote successful, if you will, right? But are you being successful in the world's eyes or in God's eyes? And I think I
yes,
would challenge you, anybody that's listening, we're not saying, this is our both Elaine and I's faith journey, but I would challenge you to say, what is your basis for success in life? What is your basis for understanding and feeling like you're living a purposeful life, and leaving a legacy? Because at least from my perspective, Elena, I think you would 100% agree that this life is just part of our journey. I like to say we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and so we have a short, finite time to be a blessing, to lift up people, to encourage them, to love on them, to show grace, show mercy, go hope, all of those things. And you know we need more people like you, Elaine, being that light in the world to hopefully light another candle that might be feeling almost extinguished or burned out. It's not us per se, it's just God working through us, if you will, right, Elaine?
absolutely. And I think
Mhm.
we what we are short-sighted on is the ripple effect. Like
Mm,
on this side, we believe as believers on this side, we will never know all the people that we affected.
right.
So yes, I come out of here in the States in Virginia and I travel over to Africa and I start working with this woman in Nairobi or maybe a little further out than Nairobi. And I may not know her whole entire journey beyond that. I'll never
Mhm.
know all the effect that I may have had in her life. But man, I don't want to miss the opportunity to be a piece of that.
Right.
To know that I could look back later and know that just stepping into her world changed an entire community's world, or even an American woman here,
Mhm.
same thing, right? I'm so excited that God does let us in sometimes and lets us know the effect of the things that we're doing. But I don't know. I'm so excited when we get there to know how it really rippled out and what happened. But I'm going to enjoy the journey now and I'm going to make sure that I create every ripple I can
I
in the
love that.
moments that I'm in.
Yes, think about the ripples that you're investing in doing now, and I think that it does change the perspective and the way that you're approaching things that are hitting you on the day to day. It's like, well, what is that ripple? And I love with Steward Your Business the same thing. Like, how do we strengthen those teams that reverberate upon and be a blessing, that they feel like, oh man, I'm part of something bigger than myself, you
Mhm.
know? Uh,
Mhm.
so important. I know we're getting into the podcast, and I would go on and go further with you, Elaine, and we'll have to have you back. But what would you feel? Well, I want to ask you a kind of a question here, and if I miss anything, I'll let you add it to this. But if someone's feeling pulled to something bigger right now, whether they're that current business owner or there's somebody like, I'm thinking I might be an entrepreneur, I'm not sure, and they're just feeling that uncertainty right now, Elaine, what would you say to them directly? Like right now, they're like, oh man, I'm just not sure.
So, two things. I think make sure that you have gone to God and asked him that.
Mm.
Because sometimes we leave him out of the equation when he's just asking us to partner
Mhm.
with him. And if we're
Mhm.
part of his plan, it's going to be a good plan.
Yeah, amen, amen.
And then two, if you really have some things swirling around that you just feel passionate about, you get up every day and you think about them. One of the things I do with my clients is what I call a brain dump. Take
Mhm.
some time to just write it all out on paper. Even the small thoughts about it, just write it out on paper and give yourself some time to sit and absorb what you're looking at. And I
Mhm.
guarantee you, if you do that and you pray over it and you ask God, something in there is going to stick up for you, and it's going to set you off on this journey like that is what I'm supposed to be doing. And once you get
Mhm.
that, you'll be off to the races with it.
Oh man. Well, so you guys hear this. We're gonna make sure you can connect with Elaine. And you know that she's there for you. She's an advocate for you. Elaine, is there anything else I missed or forgot to ask, or anything you want to impart to our listeners today that if they heard nothing else, they should take away from you in your journey as she steps forward?
Two things super quick together is one, please dream big. Our God loves
Mm,
for you to dream, and he wants you to dream big and allow him to show you the God that he is, and to have that courage to step forward, because he's not going to let you see, as Martin Luther King used to say, the rest of the staircase. You have to take the first step. And
mm,
once you are able to do that and you're able to grow in your entrepreneurial journey, who knows, you may have something in your hands big enough that once you finish with me, you need David, because you need a team and you need to grow that team out.
yep.
There's so
Yep.
many people along your path that want to help you, and we would love to be a part of your journey.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Elaine, for being here. It's a real honor to have you on our podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been so great.
Wonderful. Well, of course, you all hopefully enjoyed this podcast episode today. We welcome your comments, your feedback. We'll make sure that Elaine gets that. You can follow along on all our show notes. If I, Steward Your Business, can be more of a help, please reach out. We happy to follow up with you. If you want to be a guest, we would love to have you on there as well. Thank you so much for being with us. Until next time, be well.